Sometimes, in order to align with the rhythm of the wild, it's helpful to reconnect with the aspects of nature that are soft, subtle, and small, like the whispers, the almost imperceptible sounds and movements, and those ones who aren't flashy or dramatic or loud. Today, during the Mindful Bird Sit, I'll guide us through a practice that will help us to do just that. Hey there, welcome to the Mindful Bird Sit. If you're new here, my name is Kristi, and I help people connect deeply with birds and nature while boosting their confidence and helping to elevate their skills while falling more in love with life. If that's something you'd like to do, please consider subscribing and sticking around. All right, let's get started. Well, it's good to see everybody this morning. So, when I went out this morning for my run to sort of connect with what I wanted to, how I wanted to guide and design the practice this morning, um, what came to me was subtlety and gentleness and softness um, and I'll share more about that in a little bit. But as I was allowing myself just to be in that space of really gentle movements and subtle sounds, all of a sudden I heard this sound. I'm not sure if I can mimic it. It's like it's very high pitch. It's probably even hard. It's even hard for me to hear myself do it, but it's like really high pitch. Sounds like an insect or a bat. It's a black pole warbler. So it has one of the most subtle sounds out there, barring like the Henslow sparrow or something like that. But um and I just thought what a gift, because I didn't know what I was going to do. And I always feel blessed in that way by the world providing, I guess, the source of our focus today. And then there was the gift of this very subtle sound that's really, it could be quite hard to hear if you're focused on other things. And so I've been really wanting to hear this bird. It was the first time ever that I've heard it. I didn't get a chance to see it, though I was kind of stalking it to see if I could find it. But anyway, I just thought that was a really lovely way to start us off today, and some good juju for this morning. So um, we'll get started. Okay, so yeah, get yourself in a nice position where you can see, have a good vantage point. We will be using our ears a little bit today, but more focused on our sight, which we haven't been doing as much lately. So now that you're in your position, take a nice deep breath in. Just getting yourself centered and grounded, connected with this moment, with yourself in this place and time. Who are you today, right now? What is your body experiencing? And we'll begin by just noticing our breath. So, what is the experience of your breath this morning? And we can alter that a little bit, that experience of our breath, by intentionally taking a deeper breath or exhaling more fully. So, if you'd like to do that, you can go ahead and breathe deeply in, filling up all the space that you can. And then when you exhale, you're going to exhale nice and slowly in a gentle, gentle rhythm. And then at the very end, you're going to push all that air out. And then allow your lungs to fill up naturally, as they will once we've pushed all the air out. And we'll do that a couple of times. Again, you can just stay in your natural rhythm if you'd rather do that. But if you'd like to attempt for the full deep breath and full exhale, you can do that right now. And something that can help with that is noticing your posture. So just seeing if your posture is nice and upright, with the crown of your head reaching toward the sky as if it's just getting gently pulled up. You can tuck your chin just a little bit, shoulders nice and rounded. More so, it's that your chest is up, not so much that you're forcing your shoulders back, but that your chest is presented. It's up and expressed or exposed, which can be a vulnerable place to stand in. So just notice that if that feels safe and comfortable for you right now. And maybe it's just an exploration in this moment. And now that you've connected with your breath, we'll move ourselves a little bit more deeper into our bodies. So we can begin with our heart rhythm. So just feeling, see if you can feel the rhythm of your heartbeat. Sometimes you can even feel it on your clothing, the way that your heart is making your clothes move. You might be able to feel it inside your chest. Could also gently place your hand on your wrist where you feel the pulse. Whatever you want to do to feel your rhythm, your own unique, beautiful rhythm of your heart right now. As you're connecting with that beautiful rhythm, you can send some gratitude to it right now. This incredible force in our body, this electricity that moves through our body without us having to think about it. She's just taken really good care of us. And now you can send your attention to your spine. You can start in the crown of your head if you'd like, just becoming aware of where your spine meets your skull. And then slowly moving down one vertebrae at a time, becoming aware of each one having a slightly different function, slightly different experience of life. Some people like to say you can send your breath there. So imagine that when you're breathing now, you're actually breathing into your spine, as if your spine itself was doing the inhale and the exhale. And noticing if there's any places that you might just sort of instinctively or accidentally skip over. And you can return to those and give them some extra love and attention as you're slowly making your way down your spine. And then you can finally reach the very end, that little bone at the very tip. If we were dogs, we might have a little tail right there. We'd be wagging it when we saw each other. And now we can move our attention and our awareness to our bellies. In some traditions, this is the center point of your body, that place where we're most grounded, most centered. So give some attention to that position, that place about 2 inches below your belly button, the lower dantian, as it's called in some traditions. This source of power in your body. You can imagine if you were in a martial arts practice and you were to do that sound like, huh, like when you do that, if you do that motion of, huh, it really comes from that place in your belly, not so much up in your chest, but it's all the way down your belly, that force where it comes from. Beautiful. Now send your attention, your awareness all the way down your legs. You can even extend out to your arms, to your fingertips, imagining that these are little rootlets, your fingers and your toes, extending out to the world, and just feeling their connection, their unique and distinct connection with the world, each toe, each fingertip, a little bit different than the other one. What a fun thing to have 10 fingers and 10 toes, each with a slightly different experience of the world. It's beautiful. So now you can close your eyes if you feel like you're in a safe place and regain your awareness of your posture, noticing if maybe you went back into a slouched position or if you're still relatively upright with your chin just slightly tucked. crown of your head reaching up. Now we're going to take a moment to listen to our surroundings. Just allow yourself to let whatever is there be. Doesn't matter if it's human made or animal made or plant made. Just noticing who's present, who's in your neighborhood this morning. And you can slowly start to send your awareness as if it's a sonar out into the world, just sort of feeling again, like if you're like an octopus with tentacles in all directions of your body, but they're extended from your ears. So they have like little hearing devices on them and they can hear the world. So you're going to feel the world with your ears right now and just start to slowly stretch further and further and further away from your body. You can notice with each layer that you move further away, what communities exist in those layers. Maybe you hear different people, in a sense, different animals, different plants. And then once you've reached the furthest point that you could possibly hear, let yourself stay there for just a moment, kind of touching the edge of your hearing awareness. And then slowly bring that awareness back in, coming back layer by layer by layer until you're finally back after a moment or two to your own breath and the sound of your breath. Beautiful. So, in the next moments, you're going to gently open your eyes and allow them to fall on something that's somewhere between 5 to 10 feet away from you. So, something that's not too far away, could be a little bit further, maybe about 20 feet, anywhere from 10 to 20 feet away from you. And as we often do, we're going to actually the rest of this, the majority of this practice, we're going to stay in owl eyes. So we'll begin that practice, just setting everybody up for that. So you'll find one point on whatever it is you're looking at that's about 10 to 20 feet away, and find one point to focus on in this moment. And then slowly, as if you just dropped a little pebble into the water at that spot, and slowly the ripples are going to extend further and further and further out with your vision. And you're going to stretch your vision until you almost can't see any further, but really discover and explore the edges of your vision. How far in either direction or above and below can you actually see right now? And the intention isn't to, sorry, Julia, I did that accidentally. The intention isn't to effort this. It's just to allow your vision to soften. So if you notice you're sort of straining to look, see if you can just soften that intention. And, maybe you've reached the maximum capacity of your vision. So just find that gentle place where your vision is nice and soft and you don't have to effort to get there. The only efforting that some of you might experience is that the challenge that your eyes are going to want to regain focus. So, as much as you can, just give your eyes permission. We're here just for a short time today, and just give your eyes permission to stay blurry, to stay unfocused. That's actually the desired state for the moment. And then what I'd like you to do is just notice the most prominent, the sort of biggest motions that you can see on the landscape right now. So, what stands out the most? What's moving the most? What might have the brightest color? Just sort of what's the biggest presence in motion right now. And we'll just stay with that. So, just kind of explore your environment. You can even move your eyes if you want to, as long as you are able to stay in owl eyes, and just noticing in the directions around you, what are some of the biggest movements right now? And we'll allow ourselves to be in this state for about the next couple minutes. And what you can do is just sort of mentally take stock of where those big motions are coming from. So we'll just sort of keep a mental map in our consciousness of, oh yeah, over there's like a really big tree branch that's moving quite a lot, or maybe there's a machine, some piece of machinery, there's a crane or something that's moving, whatever it might be. Just mentally make a note of where the big movements are on your landscape. Great, good work. Now we're gonna, as if we can turn a dial down just a notch or two, we're going to turn that dial down a couple notches to a slightly more subtle movement. So we notice the big movements, and now we're going to dial it down just a notch or two, not too much. And I want you to explore the landscape now with your eyes, in owl eyes, looking for motions that are not quite as prominent as the ones that you just noted. Great. And now let's say we started at a 10 with the movements. We dialed it down to about an 8, and now let's dial it down to about a 6. So movements that are a little bit more subtle, a little bit more gentle, not quite as prominent as the ones we were just noticing. So it's at this level where the work begins, if you will, because our attention is going to want to get drawn to the most prominent, like the eights and the tens, and it's maybe distracted away from the more subtle movements. So see if you can, again, like a meditation, if we can keep bringing our mind back to the subtle movements, the ones that are around a six. And feel free to explore again. Like if you've searched the landscape in front of you, you can gently start to slowly move one direction or the other, allowing yourself to just be curious about the landscape in all directions around you. And if you're content looking just in one direction, that might feel very calming to some of you just to stay focused in one direction right now. And feel free to do that as well. All right, good. So we were at a six, and now we're going to dial it down to about a four. So one thing that can help you is to give yourself like a guide, for instance. So look now in the landscape and see if you can find something that's moving at about a level four relative to your other motions. And then once you find that, use that as the guide for noticing the other motions around that level, if that makes sense to you. If it doesn't make any sense, don't worry about it. Just find things that are about a level four. Nice. Now we're going to dial it down to a level two. So it's almost no movement. And don't forget, you can look to the ground as well. You don't have to just look above. But where can you find a level two movement on your landscape right now? Really good work. All right, so finally, we're going to dial it all the way down to 0. So looking for things on your landscape that aren't moving at all. So just take stock of what around you is stationary, has no movement to it. Really good work, everybody. So now you can just allow your eyes to fall on whatever inspires them in this moment and to take this time to offer gratitude or a blessing to all those ones that you connected with today. Great work. All right. So, for anyone who needs to head out right now, thank you for coming. And anyone who wants to stay for our chat, you're welcome to. There's no pressure to chat, to say anything while we're here. You can definitely just receive and listen. So, everyone is welcome to stay. But this is the time where we move into questions or stories from our experience this morning. And who would like to start us off? Can raise your hand whenever. Yeah, Anne's ready. All right, go for it.
Well, I have to share before I forget. I first started out with just some plants, the trees here, and then I realized that the largest motion were the birds or the car on the street behind me. So I had to switch that because that was the thing that demanded my attention. It was a fast, not a consistent movement that was dominant. Whether it was the car, the bird, and I always kept wanting to jerk away from that. So, and as the motions also got slower, they get closer to the ground. And I caught myself, the dandelion seed head. I caught myself going back and forth with it, you know? And then there's something else. It was just quivering finally at the end, just this little plant. I don't know if you can hear it, but today's my tornado siren day. Gabby has her trash day. Today's tornado siren day. So, but it was the faster, quicker. You know, they might have not been as frequent, but those were the things that made my eyes want to move. So the other ones were calming but yeah. So I had to move them a little bit in order.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I found a similar with my experience of there were no birds. No, that's not true. There was two over here at one point, but toward the end where we were down to like 2 to 0, I think it was around 0. I heard a cardinal over here, and so I turned my head to just see. I was kind of curious. I was like, oh, I wonder where I would rate its motion. Because I just got curious. I had so many questions that came up through this process, but one of the curiosities was I wonder what like a bird just perched, just breathing, where that would fall in the range, you know. And so I knew the cardinal was very close, and so I was watching him, And he was, as he was singing, as he was doing or calling, it was like his chip call. Um, and he was very active. I was just like, wow, you're kind of like up there. You're maybe like an 8 or a 6 at least, even just like stationary chip calling. Um, and there was only like a moment where he didn't move at all. And I thought, yeah, like the birds, maybe when like it's like a hawk might be perched or something like that, just really stationary and still, or an owl, or um, a bird who's just really deeply resting. Even a hummingbird, sometimes when they're just like resting, they can be very still. But for the most part, like birds are kind of up there with the in the motion category, right? At least from what I was experiencing. That's, you're right, like they caught my attention, which is kind of cool when we think about ourselves as bird lovers and like wanting to see birds. If we can slow ourselves down and quiet our visual world to where we start to tap into the really slow moving motions, suddenly what we actually start to pick up on are the really quick motions, which are the birds. That's a good trick to do for ourselves if we're, out, especially right now, looking for like warblers and whatnot. You think you want to just focus on them all the time, but really the trick is to allow yourself to get really still and quiet and look for the stillness, because suddenly you'll find yourself actually seeing the motion, you know? Yeah. Thanks, Anne, for that. That's great. Who else would like to share? Anne Marie, I think I saw a motion in you. Yeah, go for it.
Well, it's raining a little bit here, so I could see some of the effects of it on the trees, like my silver maple. Definitely, they flip over, and that's why you get the silver color in the wind when it's blowing. But the birds, yeah, they were distracting, like Ann said, because they were super fast. And my blue jays were like really flying back and forth in front of me, like trying to. It's like I don't know if they wanted my attention or or they want me to move. But then there were some. I have pansies like up here on the deck, and so as I got closer, just the subtle little petals and leaves I could see moving as I got closer and closer. So it's very helpful because I do use this when I sit um, to pick up, where little guys are, especially deep in the woods, because that's when I chill. I can see further back and just blur out. It's amazing. I didn't realize how much peripheral, that you have, and sometimes it's overwhelming how much you can actually take in if you slow down and let yourself perceive it all. Because a lot of us ignore it and just look at the stuff right in front of us. But when you take time to notice all the little things around, it's quite lovely. So,
That's beautiful, Anne Marie. It's kind of like a wonderful overwhelm. Yeah, for sure. And the more, it sounds like you're practicing more and more. And so the more you do that, the more you won't really have to think about it. Like your eyes will just become attuned to being in peripheral vision, having your peripheral vision something that's like important. Because it's almost been, it hasn't been trained out of us, but it's been like we haven't been trained to give it our attention. So the more we do this and the more we practice caring about our peripheral vision, the more it will just become like an unconscious thing in our life that we do, that we're all like, I feel like for the most part I go through my life and I can pick up pretty quickly on the motions, far off to in my periphery. Um, Sometimes for better or worse. There was like one house I was staying in. I can't remember what it was right now, but there was something that like it was like outside, and it was always like, I don't know, it was like a rope or something that was just like would always like move. And so I'd be like looking like, what is that? Like, oh, it's the rope, and then I go by myself like busy doing whatever. Oh, it's the rope. It's like sometimes it's annoying. It's just like, stop it. I don't want to see that. I got it. It's the rope. I don't need to look every time. But like, once you train your mind to care about it, your mind's just like, all right, we care now. Like, look, like there's something moving. So pay attention. And yeah, I'd rather do that. I'd rather be annoyed once in a while than um and have that gift and that skill than to not, to shut it off. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Anne-Marie. Who else would like to share? Yeah, Julia, please.
So this is one time when my setting fit what your focus was for us. And it is a beautiful spring day, and with a just a beautiful spring breeze that varies. So, I started out with the shrubs moving a little bit, and then there were opportunities for less and less. And I noticed on my little pond that the I have some reeds, little thin reeds, and they would move just a tiny bit, with just the tiniest of breeze and the flowers. And I don't know, you can't really see, but there's, oh, Henrietta's, that's my guard chicken, Henrietta. But yeah, you can't really get the effect of it. But that's what I was seeing over my pond. And I have a little prairie uh, spot where just a mixture of native prairie plants, and the spring ones, the spiderworts are purple, and the pink, the primrose, um, which is native, is they're all blooming, and it's just gorgeous. And it will, change as the seasons go along. There will be other things taking over. But so this is a wonderful day to be out, just the opposite of last week when the wind was whipping and everything. And I'm thinking, thank you for the breeze. And yeah.
That's
And
really
Marie, what you said about really now noticing things, the subtleties that I hadn't, I'll be able to look at those reeds, and the water iris, the little tips were moving a little bit because they're really tall, right? Tall and fresh and green and right now. So I'll have something to look for as I come out.
Hmm. That's beautiful. Yeah, because it reminds me sometimes when I do this practice and I start to notice things I'd never really given much attention to before, I feel like there's like a friendship or a relationship that develops. And now I'm like, I care about that little motion, that little thing. It's like, oh, how are you today? Like I actually want to look at where you are, like the reed moving. It's like now I feel like there's maybe like a kinship or a friendship. I'm sure you had that before, the relationship with them, but maybe not. I don't know. And so now there's some kind of a string, this like tie between you and that reed, and how sweet that is. Like the more that we can connect with the parts of our world that support us and give us you know life. And Jays are a little upset right now. They've been the crows have been coming in to build their nest, and so they've been coming over here breaking branches. And I'm guessing the jays are probably going to set up their nest somewhere around here because they're really not happy, and they make this like growl kind of sound. I don't know if you can hear it in the background. They're doing it right now. It's like rat, rat, rat. They do that when the crows are coming by because it was a weird sound. I was like, who is that? Like, who's doing that? And I saw the other day a couple times that it's been the jays who've been mad at the crows, and they're not mobbing them. They're just like mad at them. And so I think, yeah, there goes the crow now flying back with a branch. And they're just like, the jays are just kind of pissed. And they're just like, ah, get out, go, go. Like they're not loud, but they're just, it's like a whisper growl kind of thing. It's really cool. Sorry, distracted by birds. Go figure. I have one thing I'll share that toward the end, when I was looking for things that don't move, I was really exploring that piece. I'm like, okay, there's this tree in front of me that looks like it's not moving, but I imagine it probably is to some degree. But it was hard to tell because even my breath, like just the up and down motion of my breath was moving. So I'm like, I don't know if it's moving or if it's just me breathing that's moving. And so I was just like, I'm not sure. You probably are moving. You're not totally stationary, even though it looks stationary to me. But then that brought my attention up, and there's the clouds moving by, which I had already kind of identified them in like the 6 range, maybe like maybe 5 or 6. Um, but then I went beyond the clouds, and there's some like blue sky back there, and it's something I'd never thought about before. I was like, does the blue move? Like, what is that blue? Like the clouds move and we see the clouds moving, but the blue of the sky, does that move or is that totally, it seems stationary. I've just never thought about it before. I don't actually know, like, is it just the atmosphere? And does the atmosphere move? Like, or is it really stationary? I don't know. So it was just a really, I was like, whoa, I've never thought about that before. And how cool, like in the searching for stillness, that question came up. And I think that's also one of the gifts of this practice is that we're maybe invited or just inspired, I think, to think new kinds of thoughts, you know, maybe thoughts that like ancient people used to be able to have when they had, more time to be still and do these kinds of things. Uh, anyway, maybe you guys have already thought about that and everyone already knows that like the blue does move or doesn't move. And I don't know. So it was really fun. Cool. Anyone else want to share? And one more time. Yeah, sure.
Just real quick on the thought about not moving. I'm sitting here. My husband's a geologist, so I am surrounded by rocks. And I thought, the rock is not moving. And I thought, well, rocks did move. We had glaciers. And I'm looking at a pine cone that's decomposing. And I'm thinking, is there just movement that I'm not seeing? Is there chemistry and biology in action here that's just not visible to my eye? So yeah, I went there too, Kristi.
That's so cool. It's like if we were, I don't know if you guys were ever read The Lord of the Rings, but the Ents, remember the Ents in the book? They were the big giant like tree giants. I think they were trees. I'm pretty sure the Ents were trees, but like just taking one step took them like so long. It was like, rah, it just like they took so long to move or to make a decision or to think. But it was like to us, we wouldn't see the motion, but to like a being like a rock, like, yeah, that rock is probably moving. It's just a heck of a lot slower than like we have the capacity to perceive, How cool, Anne. What a rad thought. Yeah. Sweet. All right, everybody. Anyone else want to share before we go? Okay. I think we're all good for next week. And I don't know if there's any maybe well, I'm gonna save that. I have a one announcement, but I think I'm gonna save it for a week or two. So anyway, I will it was a real pleasure being here with you all today. It was really grounding for me to do this. So thank you. Thanks for showing up and playing and practicing. And we'll see you next time. Have a really beautiful week. Yeah. Enjoy the gentle spring right now. If you've got it. All right, everybody. Good to see you.